This story comes from the pages of DC X Sonic the Hedgehog, issue number 1. Please support the official release. The story begins where we see Sonic and friends enjoying a nice chili dog lunch, where they look to the skies and quickly realize something is wrong. As usual, they were under attack, but this wouldn't be by Dr. Eggman. This would be by something different. Something darker. This would be Darkseid. Yes, the same one from the DC universe. Annoyed that their chili dog lunch was interrupted, Sonic and company wondered just who and what this could be, where suddenly we'd see a band of parademons emerge from the ship where they'd go to war with the heroes. Combating the invaders, the gang were soon outnumbered, where Sonic decided that retreat would be their best strategy for now. Things are then taken to Angel Island, where we also see the invasion had made its way here, where we see our boy Knuckles wasting no time throwing hands, sending one parademon straight into orbit. You know, it's a darn shame we can't play as Knuckles yet in Smash Bros. My friend always beats me as Isabelle, and getting to lay a good knuckle sandwich on her like this would be oh so satisfying. As usual, Knuckles was defending the Master Emerald, which was directly in Darkseid's crosshairs, for Darkseid would reveal that the gem had the power to neutralize their true goal, and that would be the Chaos Emeralds. Not wanting anything to ruin his grand plans, Darkseid immediately ordered for Darkseid to destroy the Master Emerald, where the minion warned him this would take an immense amount of their force's energy. The Warlord would give the horrifying angry dad stare at Darkseid, where he said he better not have to repeat himself. Things would then cut to Knuckles absolutely bodying some parademons, where he then scoffed at them as they retreated. He'd see just why they were getting away though, for as he looked to the skies, he'd witness the giant floating Darkseid head Death Star charge up and fire an enormous space laser upon the island, completely destroying it, the Master Emerald, and seemingly Knuckles in the process. We'd then be taken to Sonic and his friends, where they'd make their way to Sunset City, only to see that it was under attack as well. Telling Amy and Tails to stay put, Sonic would leap back into the fight, where he'd be joined by a mysterious individual, who appeared to be another speedster just like him. This speedster would be none other than the Flash, who asked just what the blue blur was doing here, where Sonic said that he liked the guy's hustle. Flash would then chalk the dude up to being another local, despite having super speed and literally being an actual living furry with Jordans on, where Sonic thought this was adorable and asked the man if he could keep up. Giving his usual cocky smirk, Barry told Sonic just who he was and that he was speed personified. Having a proper counter to his own fast ego, Sonic then clapped back at the man, saying that he was speed perfected. In an absolutely awesome next panel, our boy Sonic would put the age-old question to rest as who would win in a race between him and the Flash, where he'd then rocket past Barry, completely pulverizing a pair of parademons in the process. As the battle continued, we'd witness Silver the Hedgehog locked in combat with the monsters, where despite his immense strength, would soon find himself quickly outgunned. This would not be for long though, as we'd witness Green Lantern show up with an actual giant gun, where he'd mow down the invaders, with Silver thinking this was the coolest thing he had seen all day. The pair would then join forces against the aliens, both in complete adoration and admiration of the vast similarities and differences in their powers. In the streets below, we'd see a frightened mother and child fleeing from an invader, believing this would soon be their end. Next, we'd be greeted by possibly the coolest scene in the whole comic, where we'd see Shadow the Hedgehog and Batman gang up on the Beast, where Shadow literally punched a hole right through it, as Batman flying knee kicked it right in the face. Both giving each other the dude nod in reflection of how cool that was, Bruce and his furry dark edgelord bestie then raced off in search of who else needed their aid. Making their way through the ruined streets, we'd see Amy and Tails once more, where they'd come across a giant Darkseid robot destroying everything in its path. Wasting no time, the pair sprang into action to combat the war machine, where out of nowhere, a giant laser would pierce it through the chest, immediately destroying it. This attack would be the work of none other than our boy Cyborg, joined by an extra beefed up Wonder Woman, who arrived to aid the heroes. Before the group could even properly introduce themselves to each other, they were met by the monstrous eldest son of Darkseid, Calabac, who talked an immensely big game for someone within mere inches of Knuckles' distance, where we'd see the dude was still alive, where he'd then sucker punch the invader right in the face, saying that was for destroying his island. A very injured Calabac would then try and say he barely felt that attack, where he then had his Calabac absolutely destroyed by Superman, who landed right atop the monster, snidely asking if he felt that. We then discover that Superman had saved Knuckles at the literal last second before Angel Island was destroyed. The Guardian's life was spared, but his home and the emerald he swore to protect were completely gone. Given a lull in the battle, we'd see both teams finally regroup, where we'd get some much needed introductions to each other. Cyborg would then give us an exposition dump on just how this was all happening. Turns out Darkseid's floating head rock was more than a vanity project to compensate and distract us from the fact that he wears a miniskirt and thigh-high boots every single day. This was actually a mobile satellite called the Ragnarok, which could hop to different dimensions. Knowing that the man was after some sort of great power in Sonic's world, the Justice League was able to figure out the coordinates of this dimension and used a boom tube of their own to get here so they could put a stop to things. Deducing just what this great power was, Sonic Team knew this had to be the Chaos Emeralds, where they then explained them to the League members. Wonder Woman would then ask if there was any way to neutralize the Emerald's power, where Knuckles would kindly remind everyone that, yeah, the Master Emerald could have done it, but now it's kind of in 1,000 pieces. Oh, please, Lord, don't make us do the Death Chamber level again to find these, please. I'm begging you. Superman would go to put the group at ease, where he'd attempt to discuss a next plan of attack, where Shadow, clearly fed up, would say he didn't have time for this, where he'd storm off into a nearby alley. Seeing that Shadow was just like him for real, Batman said that he would be able to handle this. Catching up to the Hedgehog, Batman would ask Shadow a simple question: who was it? This then caused the ultimate lifeform to freeze in his tracks, where he then asked just what he meant. The Dark Knight then clarified by asking who the special person was that Shadow lost, the one that he was powerless to save. We then see that Shadow and Batman were much closer in origin than I really thought about, where Bruce then told him how he watched his parents gunned down in front of him when he was a kid, where Shadow then told him the infamous tale of how he lost Maria aboard the space colony Ark. We even get an illustration of the soldier who killed her. Man, that never gets old. Just like Maria. Speaking to the goodness within Shadow's heart, Batman told him he'd be a valuable asset in this fight, where Shadow, being the big softy that he was, accepted this request, saying that Bruce better be worth the trouble. Once the team was back together, we'd see that Tails was working on a tracking technology for the Chaos Emeralds, which intrigued Cyborg, who was rather surprised to see the advanced tech that an 8-year-old fox child was capable of. Becoming the best of tech bros, Victor and Miles took off to the lab to finish the gear necessary to find the emeralds, while the other League members prepped to head off to keep Darkseid's forces busy from locating the remaining jewels themselves. Here we'd see the coolest of team-ups, where Knuckles would be with Superman, Amy with Wonder Woman, Silver with Green Lantern, Batman and Shadow being Hot Topic poster children by riding motorcycles together, and of course Sonic and the Flash competing in yet another race. Making their way to Green Hill Zone of all places, the pair would be stopped dead in their tracks, where they discover that despite their immense speed, they were too slow to stop the mighty Darkseid, who had already gotten his hands on a Chaos Emerald, saying that he now held the ultimate power within the universes.